honestly, I have a story to tell, as we all have a story to tell. And what I realized on my journey was a lot of us don't believe that we can achieve the impossible. And along my journey, I started realizing, man, I gotta fucking tell some people about this shit, man. Like, I discovered something that some people have, but they don't even fucking know. All of us have it. But along this way, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't a theorist. I became a practitioner. And I was like, my God, I'm busting down so many barriers of, like, I have a learning disability. Okay, but I'm catching up with everybody. I figured out all these negative things in my life that were keeping me in this hole. I'm like, I gotta tell people, man, that you can fucking achieve the absolute impossible. You don't need great parents. You don't need like a private school. You don't need to have this humongous GPA and all this other shit. What you need is the one thing I talked about in my book, which is straight up brutal work ethic. You have to be willing to outwork everybody in the world. And that's the hard part. That's the hard part. This isn't like some 5-step process where if you do these 5 fucking steps, you're gonna end up with this magical world. Nah, I'm basically teaching you how to callous over your victim's mentality.
In every way, the deck was stacked against Epictetus. 2,000 years ago in Hierapolis, he was born into slavery. He wasn't even given a name. Epictetus just means acquired one. He was tortured. The fruits of his labor were stolen. His body was abused, like a horse that was ridden into the ground and then put down. Later, he was unfairly exiled. He went through unimaginable adversity and difficulty, and yet he triumphed. Because Epictetus didn't look at his life as a series of horrors and tragedies, but as a set of endless opportunities. A podium and a prison is each a place, he said, one high and the other low, but in either place, your freedom of choice can be maintained if you wish. Every event has 2 handles, he said, one by which it can be carried and one by which it can't. Epictetus chose to focus on what was in his control, his opinions, his values, his wants, his sense of self, and ignore the rest. Looking around at the powerful men and women in Nero's court where he worked, Epictetus began to notice that although he was a slave, he was freer than many of them. They were enslaved to power and ambition, pleasure and attention. Their minds wandered. They were easily distracted. They were wounded by minor offenses and consumed by petty grudges. They lived bad lives. So he educated himself under the great Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus and eventually won his freedom. He himself became a teacher of Rome's brightest students, including the future emperor Hadrian. His ideas made their way to Marcus Aurelius, and suddenly, a man who had so little power was influencing the most powerful people in the world for the better. What we learn from Epictetus is not just sheer endurance and resilience, but the ability to find and make a good life anywhere, in all times. We can, through determination and skill, learn how to shape our own destiny. Control it? No. Shape it? Yes. By turning in a splendid performance in our current role.
One of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on. And he'd say, boss, we got this and that and the other thing. And I'd look at him and I'd say, good. And finally one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem. And he said, I already know what you're going to say. And I said, well, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good. He said, that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say, good. And I said, well, yeah, when things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. We have time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. Learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out, don't get startled, don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well, now you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, go out on the attack.
One of the most important chapters in this book is the chapter on attitude and how your attitude towards life affects what happens to you.
That connects to the thing that you and I made together, which is the Amor Fati coin.
Yes.
Which is the idea that also a Nietzsche phrase of sort of loving everything that happens to you, not resenting it, not fighting against it, not carrying around a grudge or a burden, but sort of embracing it and finding the good in it.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't fit in because it's not natural to us. Our natural frame, our natural starting position is when something bad happens, why me? You know, it feels sort of a grievance. A lot of what I'm talking about in this book is overcoming some of these natural elements in human nature and turning them around and using them for another purpose, another way. Amor Fati is very powerful in that you train yourself to accept everything that happens. It's like, for Nietzsche, it was, this is life. Life involves pain. Life involves adversity. You're going to die one day and it's not going to be pleasant. Your friends and family members, they're going to die one day and it's not going to be pleasant. You're going to have failure in life. People are going to hurt you. But that is life. That's what it is. So to resist that, to be angry about that, means to not love life itself.
It's easy to talk about Amor Fati, especially when you're talking about, I'm going to love that my plane is delayed, or, you know, that there's some trouble with the printer in my book or something. How have you tried to practice Amor Fati recovering from a stroke?
You know what that's like. You were writing a book about stoicism and obstacles of the way, and then you got robbed and you had all these things happen.
Sure.
And you were being tested. Well, I had a stroke, and it's like the ultimate test for me. I've never had to go through something like this because I'm somebody who's very physically active and independent. And suddenly I can't use the left side of my body and I'm completely dependent. And the initial reaction is the natural reaction. Oh man, damn, why did this have to happen? This is so unfair. Why me? You know, if only I could just keep swimming and doing my life the way it was. I'm so upset. And I talk in the book, your natural reactions, you don't have to fight them. You have to go take the next step, which is the next day after you've gone through this, is to analyze your own emotions and why you're feeling that way. So I've had to go through that process, and it's actually been extremely powerful for me. I have to retrain my body. Every day I have to learn how to use my fingers again, like a baby. And I'm learning how the mind works. I'm learning about patience and frustration, about my own limits. And I can't necessarily say I love my stroke. I think that would be false of me to say something like that. I don't love that this happened, but I've accepted it, and I've discovered how it can make me a better and stronger person.
So what I realized, when I get to that point where I want to quit, everybody, they get to the point where they want to quit. This is what happens. The mind tells you, let's go home. Let's take a warm shower. Let's get some food. This is not right. This is that. If you cannot answer the questions at that moment, because your mind's going to start giving you all these questions. And if you can't answer them, you're going to quit. What I realized when I was going through Buds, Ranger School, all this 100-mile race, 200-mile races, pull-up records, my mind said, look, brother, we've done all these other things. You've proven yourself. You're good. If I didn't have the answer to respond to my mind and say why I'm here, why I'm doing this, you will always lose that fight. You have to have the response to what your mind is going to tell you. And another thing about that is self-talk. A lot of people have like these big four on mental toughness. All that shit is crap about self-talk, visualization. It's true. But the thing about self-talk and all these things, they ask me, what do you think about when you're on mile 100 of a 205-mile run? What are you thinking about when you realize you've run for 24 hours and you have 24 more hours to run and you have another 105 miles? What goes through your mind? What do you say to yourself? I want to know. A lot of people think self-talk works. It does, but it doesn't work without the suffering before your mind starts saying we need self-talk, to the months and years of preparation to get to that day. And I'm telling myself, it's 3:30 in the morning, and I'm looking at my shoes, and I want to go out there and run 30 miles. I have to, in that second, in that moment of this self-talk, my mind saying, you got to find more, you got to find more. I once again calm down, go back into my mind, in my cookie jar, I call it, and I have to reflect back on the shit I did to get here. And that becomes my self-talk. Self-talk does not work unless it is real.
Life is actually pretty simple. There's action and reaction, there's cause and effect. There's brave people and there's cowards. A lot of people are self-interested. And if you understand the basis of these motivations, it's not difficult to work out why the world functions the way it does. And cause and effect and action and reaction are very real. And I think one of the largest plagues we have in the world today is a lack of action amongst people. And deciding not to act is an action in and of itself, right? And that's the only philosophy you need for life. If you want something to move, you have to move it. If you sit and wait for somebody else to move it, you're a coward. You're just hoping it's going to happen.
Period. Absolutely.
And that's why I don't understand when a lot of people who see where the world is going and see the future that's going to be laid out for their children kind of just hope and pray when they really need to be taking a more active role, even if it's as simple as discussing every subject with anyone who will listen and try to
Open their mind.
open minds. Correct. Yeah.